The men who crawled into the trenches in 1914 had no idea what they were building. Every weapon that defined the Second World War was first tested on human flesh in the mud of the First. The machine gun, the flamethrower, the tank, the terror siren, the rocket. One war invented them. The next perfected them. These are the 34 weapons that connect the two bloodiest conflicts in human history. What they did to the body and what they did to the mind. Category 1. The killing machines of the trenches. The Maxim MG08. Germany's primary heavy machine gun. Water-cooled, belt-fed, 400 rounds per minute. On the first day of the Somme alone, it killed 57,000 Allied soldiers in a single morning. British officers documented soldiers collapsing not from bullets, but from the psychological impossibility of advancing into that sound. The Lewis gun, Britain's light machine gun, 47-round Pan magazine, 550 rounds per minute. One man could carry it. One man could hold a trench with it. It gave individual soldiers a firepower that had never existed before. And German commanders reported morale collapses in units that believed they faced entire machine gun nests. The Stokes mortar, a steel tube that dropped 3 bombs per minute into German positions. No complex mechanism, no crew training needed. Soldiers on the receiving end described it as death with no warning. No muzzle flash, no sound until the last second. The Flammenwerfer, Germany's trench mortar family. Light, medium, heavy. The heavy variant fired a 95-kilogram bomb. The crater it left was large enough to bury 4 men. French troops nicknamed the incoming round La Marmite, the cooking pot. It was gallows humor born from complete helplessness. The steel hand granite, the German stick grenade, designed for throwing distance, not explosive yield. The wooden handle telegraphed aggression in a way a simple toss never could. Over 75 million produced by 1918. When men threw them, they weren't just throwing a weapon. They were signaling intent at close range. And the enemy's nervous system responded before the explosion arrived. The Gewehr 98. Germany's standard bolt-action rifle. 5-round magazine. 740 meters effective range. Accurate, reliable, and completely outmatched by the pace of trench warfare. A weapon built for Napoleonic open fields, now handed to men staring at 3 meters of mud. The Lee Enfield ESMLE. Britain's bolt-action answer. 10-round magazine. The fastest bolt design ever made. A trained soldier fired 15 aimed rounds per minute, known as the Mad Minute. German units reported believing they faced machine guns. They were facing one man. The MP-18, the first practical submachine gun in history. 9mm, 32-round drum, 400 rounds per minute. Deployed in Germany's 1918 spring offensive, stormtroopers carrying these cleared trenches faster than any weapon before them. It was so effective, the Treaty of Versailles specifically banned it. Germany did not forget. Category 2. Fire, gas, and weapons built to break men. The Flammenwerfer. First used at Hooge, 1915. A stream of burning fuel projected 18 meters. It killed through fire. Its primary function was psychological. Allied commanders documented mass surrenders, not from the burn radius, but from soldiers who refused to hold ground against a weapon that couldn't be shot back at. Chlorine gas. April 22nd, 1915. Ypres. 168 tons released from 5,730 cylinders across a 6-kilometer front. Men described a yellow-green cloud with a smell of pepper and pineapple. 1,000 dead. 4,000 wounded. An entire sector of the front abandoned without a single bullet fired. Mustard gas. Introduced. 1917. The war's most feared chemical weapon. Unlike chlorine, it didn't kill immediately. It soaked into clothing, contaminated ground for days, and caused slow blistering of skin, lungs, and eyes. It caused 80 to 90% of all WW1 chemical casualties and created a generation of soldiers who spent the rest of their lives flinching at yellow clouds. The Livens projector, Britain's industrialized gas delivery system. Hundreds of cylinders fired simultaneously by electric charge. A wall of gas launched without warning. One attack at Arras in 1917 used 2,340 projectors simultaneously. The Germans had no sensor for it. No warning, no time. The Paris gun, 1918. Shells fired 130 kilometers from Germany into central Paris. It wasn't designed to destroy military targets. It was designed to prove that no city was safe. That distance meant nothing, that there was no rear. The psychological effect of knowing any address in Paris could be struck with no aircraft, no approaching army, was something no weapon had ever achieved before. Category 3. The machines that rewrote war. The Mark I tank. September 15th, 1916. First combat use in history. German troops in the Somme report a complete psychological collapse, grown men abandoning positions that had held for 2 years. The tank didn't win the battle, but it destroyed the belief that any defensive line was permanent. The A-7V, Germany's response. 18-man crew, 157mm cannon, 6 machine guns, only 20 built. Mechanical failures plagued every deployment. Germany learned the lesson too late and spent the next 20 years correcting that mistake. The Fokker Eindecker, Germany's first air superiority fighter. Anthony Fokker's synchronized mechanism allowed firing directly through the propeller arc. For 18 months, in 1915 to 1916, German pilots dominated the sky so completely that Allied pilots called it the Fokker Scourge. Air power as a psychological weapon, the sense of being hunted from above, was born here. The Gotha G4, Germany's strategic bomber, 24-meter wingspan, 500-kilogram payload. It bombed London in daylight, something the British population believed impossible. The civilian panic that followed forced Britain to pull fighter squadrons from the Western Front. One bomber had achieved what an entire division couldn't. The Zeppelin, the original terror from the sky. 97 raids on Britain, 557 killed. Militarily negligible, psychologically transformative. A weapon that struck at night, invisible, silent at altitude, dropping fire from the darkness. It created a fear of the sky that had never existed in human history before 1915. The U-boat, Germany's submarine campaign, nearly strangled Britain. By 1917, 1 in 4 ships leaving British ports never returned. Sailors who survived sinkings described not the explosion, but the silence afterward, floating in freezing water, waiting for a periscope that might or might not come back. Category 4. The bridge, 20 years of refinement. The MG34, 1934. Germany took the MG08's lesson and built its successor. The world's first general-purpose machine gun, equally effective on a bipod in a ditch or mounted on a tank. 800 to 900 rounds per minute. The soldiers who had survived the MG08 in 1918 had spent 16 years teaching engineers what to build next. The MG42, the perfection of everything WW1 had started. 1,200 rounds per minute. The human ear cannot separate individual shots, only a continuous mechanical tearing. American soldiers called it Hitler's buzzsaw. Documented cases of psychological paralysis in units hearing it for the first time. Its direct descendant, the MG3, is still in active service today. The MP40, the direct evolution of the MP18. Pressed steel, folding stock, mass production. 1 million built. Every nation fighting in World War II had studied the same trench warfare lesson Germany internalized in 1918. Close-range firepower wins. The STG-44. The weapon WW1 demanded and WW2 finally delivered. The first assault rifle in mass production. Intermediate cartridge. 30-round magazine. Selective fire. It combined the range of a rifle with the volume of a submachine gun. The AK-47. The M16. Every assault rifle carried by every soldier on Earth today descends from a lesson learned in a WW1 trench. The Panzerfaust. The personal anti-tank weapon born from WW1's tank shock. A disposable rocket launcher one man could carry and fire from a trench. It gave every infantryman the ability to kill a tank, something WW1 soldiers had watched in complete helplessness. In the final months of 1945, Germany produced over 1.5 million of them. The Katyusha, the Soviet rocket artillery system. Where WW1 had used single-barrel mortars, the Soviets mounted 48 launch rails on a truck. One vehicle could deliver the equivalent of 48 artillery shells in seconds, then drive away before counter-battery fire arrived. German soldiers called it Stalin's organ. The sound of a full battery firing simultaneously, a rising shriek across the sky, was documented as one of the most psychologically destabilizing sounds of the entire war. Category 5, the perfected machines, the Panzer IV. Germany's main battle tank, built on the A7V's grave. Where Germany had built 20 tanks, in WW1, they built 8,553 of this model alone. It was the direct answer to every mechanical failure and strategic lesson of 1916. The Tiger I, the final evolution of tank fear. 56 tons, 88mm cannon, armor that early Allied shells simply bounced off. Allied tank crews in Normandy reported refusing to advance on Tiger sightings, even when no Tigers were actually present. Fear had become a tactical weapon independent of the machine itself. The T-34. The Soviet response to everything Germany had learned since 1918. Sloped armor that deflected shells. Wide tracks for mud and snow. Mass production simple enough to outlast attrition. When it appeared in 1941, German anti-tank crews reported rounds glancing off at angles they had never encountered. The Sherman. America applied the WW1 mass production lesson on a scale no nation had attempted. 49,234 built. Not the most powerful tank, the most numerous. The weapon that proved industrial capacity was itself a weapon. The Ju-87 Stuka. Germany remembered what the Gotha had done to London. Then they added a siren. The Jericho trumpet, a wind-driven wail during the dive, served no ballistic function. It was a pure psychological instrument. It worked. The S-mine, Bouncing Betty. An anti-personnel mine with a two-stage detonation. The first charge launched the mine to waist height. The second detonated. Soldiers who understood its mechanism described a particular form of paralysis. The moment between hearing the first click and waiting for what came next. That interval, roughly half a second, became more feared than the weapon itself. The V1 flying bomb. 1944. The Gotha's grandchild. A pulse jet producing a distinctive buzzing sound Londoners learned to interpret. As long as you heard it, you were safe. When the engine cut, silence, you had 10 seconds. The anticipatory terror of that silence was documented as more psychologically damaging than the explosion itself. The Me-262, the world's first operational jet fighter. It flew 200 kilometers per hour faster than anything the Allies had. Pilots described the first encounter as something that didn't fit inside their framework of what an aircraft could do. It arrived too late to change the war. It changed everything that came after. The V2 rocket. There was no warning, no sound, no time. It arrived before its own noise. It killed 9,000 people. It ended the psychological contract that survival was possible through alertness. The war that had started with men cowering in trenches ended with a weapon that made hiding impossible.